It's 2 a.m., it's negative 10 degrees, and a rancher in Nebraska is standing knee-deep in snow with a flashlight clamped between his teeth, pulling a calf out of a cow who's been in labor too long. The calf comes out wet, limp, barely breathing. He's got maybe 5 minutes before hypothermia sets in, so he scoops it up, throws it in the back seat of his truck with the heater blasting, and tells his kid to wrap it in a scarf while he runs back out to check on 3 more cows who look like they're close. That's not a bad night during calving season. That's a Tuesday. Every year, somewhere between late January and early May, cattle ranchers across the American West and Midwest enter a stretch that most people have never heard of. Calving season. It's the 3 to 6 weeks when the entire herd gives birth, and it is the single most important period of a rancher's year. Every calf that doesn't make it to weaning is lost revenue. At current market prices, that's somewhere around $2,500 to $3,000 per calf. But here's what makes it brutal. Cows don't calve on a schedule. They don't wait for daylight. They don't care that it's a blizzard outside. And first-time mothers, the heifers, are the ones most likely to need help. So for weeks on end, ranchers set alarms every 2 hours, all night, every night, and go out in the cold to check on animals that might or might not be in labor. The routine sounds simple enough when you describe it. You wake up, you pull on boots and a coat, you grab a headlamp and an ATV, or sometimes just walk. You scan the herd looking for signs. A cow lying apart from the others. Restlessness. Pacing. The beginning of a discharge that means labor is underway. If everything's fine, you go back inside for 2 hours and do it again. But everything is not always fine. Sometimes the calf is breech, coming out backwards, and if you don't catch it fast enough, the calf suffocates. Sometimes the calf is just too big for the mother's frame, and you're out there in the dark with chains and a calf puller trying to help deliver it without injuring either animal. Sometimes the birth goes perfectly, but the calf is born wet into sub-zero air, and a newborn that was 100 degrees inside the womb is suddenly lying on ice. Ranchers in Oregon have described finding calves that just melt right down to the ice after being born during a blizzard. If you're not there within minutes, the calf freezes. So what do? You carry it. You bring it inside. Some ranchers have warming boxes in their barns, basically insulated chambers with heat lamps. Others bring the calf into the house and dry it off with a hairdryer. One rancher, during a particularly bad spring storm in the Dakotas, had his kids warming calves in the back seat of his pickup, labeling them with the cow's ear tag number so they could match them back to their mothers later. And this goes on for weeks. Not a weekend. Not a rough couple of days. Weeks. Research from the University of Nebraska found that ranchers lose roughly 28 minutes of sleep per night during calving season, which sounds almost manageable until you realize that's every single night for 4 to 6 weeks straight. That kind of sustained deficit affects reaction time, judgment, emotional regulation. And these are people operating heavy equipment and working around 1,000-pound animals that can become aggressive when they've just given birth. Farming and ranching are already among the most dangerous occupations in the country. Adding chronic exhaustion to that equation, doesn't help. There's a particular wall that ranchers talk about hitting around the second or third week. The first week, there's actually a kind of energy to it. The adrenaline of new calves, the satisfaction of pulling one through a tough delivery. It feels like going to war with Mother Nature, and you think you can handle it. But by week 2, the novelty wears off. By week 3, you're running on coffee and stubbornness. You start snapping at your family. You sleep through the alarm once and run outside to find a calf that's too cold or too far gone to save. That one stays with you. If you're the kind of person who cares about where your food comes from, this is the part of the story that never makes it to the grocery store label. Subscribe if breakdowns like this are your thing. We do this every week. There's also the weather factor that makes the whole thing feel almost absurd. Most ranchers calve in late winter or early spring because that's when the breeding cycle lines up. The calves need to be old enough to take advantage of summer grass. But that means the births happen during the coldest, most unpredictable months of the year. Some ranchers have tried shifting their calving window later into April or May. But even that's no guarantee. In 2022, a massive blizzard hit the northern plains in mid-April, dumping 2 feet of snow with 50-mile-per-hour winds. Ranchers who thought they'd outsmarted the weather were right back in the same nightmare. One older rancher's advice during that storm summed it up pretty well. He told a younger guy, "Don't kill yourself for the one calf." But that's easier said than done when you've been watching over these animals for 9 months, when you know every cow by number. When a calf you pulled at 3 a.m. and dried off with a towel wobbles to its feet and starts nursing for the first time, that moment buys you another 48 hours of endurance. Ranchers will tell you calving season has exactly 3 cures. You calve out the very last cow. You see the first blade of green grass. Or you just reach the point where you're too tired to remember what tired feels like. And then, after a few weeks, it ends. The pastures fill up with calves running around with their tails in the air, sprinting in circles for no reason. The alarm clock goes back to a normal time. The rancher apologizes to everyone he snapped at, and the whole cycle starts again next year. This is the part of American agriculture that doesn't make for pretty marketing. No one puts surviving on 2-hour naps in a frozen barn on a brand label. But every steak, every burger, every leather belt started with someone standing in the cold at 2 a.m., making sure a calf took its first breath. That's the job. And about 1 million ranching families do it every single year without anyone really noticing. Anyway, that's that. YouTube's already picked your next one. It's on screen.